Captain Zarath clicked her mandibles in amusement as she reviewed the combat records displayed on her ship's main screen. The bridge crew of her vessel, the Stellar Dominion, had grown accustomed to their captain's habit of studying battle reports from across the galaxy during their long patrol routes through the Outer Rim territories. "Another human victory," announced her tactical officer, a four-armed Kalani named Vextar. The Sol Defense Force managed to repel a Chronix raiding fleet near the Titan mining stations. Zarath's elongated head tilted, her large black eyes reflecting the blue glow of the display. As a member of the Velnari species, she stood nearly 8 feet tall, with chitinous plates covering her lean frame. Her people had dominated space combat for over 3 millennia, earning respect and fear throughout the known galaxy through their superior tactics and advanced weaponry. "How many ships did the humans lose?" she asked, expecting the usual reports of massive casualties that seemed to follow human engagements. "None, Captain. 0 casualties reported." The bridge fell silent. Even the constant hum of the ship's engines seemed to pause at this unexpected information. Zarath's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of irritation among her kind. "Check those records again." The Chronix deploy battlecruisers armed with plasma cannons capable of melting through 3 feet of reinforced titanium. Surely the primitive human fleet suffered some losses. Vextar's 4 hands danced across his console, pulling up detailed battle footage. "The records are accurate, Captain. The human fleet consisted of only 5 vessels, all smaller than standard Chronix destroyers. They managed to destroy or disable 12 enemy ships without sustaining any significant damage." "Impossible!" Zarath hissed, her voice carrying the sharp edge that had intimidated countless enemies. "Humans have only been spacefaring for what? 2 centuries? They lack the experience, the technology, the instincts necessary for advanced combat. Their ships are crude metal boxes, held together by desperation and luck." Her communications officer, a crystalline being called Flux, chimed in with their melodic voice. "With respect, Captain, there have been numerous reports of human combat effectiveness. The Battle of Kepler Station, the defense of New Geneva, the propaganda." Zarath interrupted, her tail lashing behind her. "Every species likes to embellish their victories. The humans are no different. They probably faced a weakened Chronix patrol or had assistance from more advanced allies." The captain moved to the large viewport at the front of the bridge, gazing out at the starfield beyond. Her reflection stared back, showing the battle scars that decorated the right side of her face from her early days as a fighter pilot. She had earned her command through blood and skill, fighting in 17 major conflicts across 8 different star systems. "Captain," Vextar continued hesitantly, "there are also reports of individual human fighters displaying remarkable abilities. The incident at Proxima Base, where a single human soldier held off an entire Sarkani assault squad, or the myths and legends," Zarath scoffed, turning back to her crew. "Every species has their heroes, their exaggerated tales of impossible feats. The Sarkani tell stories of warriors who can crush starship hulls with their bare hands. The Yutani claim their ancestors once moved entire planets with their minds. Humans simply have better storytellers." She returned to her command chair, a sleek design that accommodated her species' unique physiology. The soft material molded around her form as she settled in, activating the chair's neural interface that connected directly to the ship's systems. "In my 3 decades of military service," she continued, "I have fought alongside and against dozens of species. Each has their strengths. The Yutani possess incredible psychic abilities. The Sarkani have nearly impenetrable natural armor. The Kalani can process tactical information faster than most computers. But humans? They are soft, slow, and lack any significant biological advantages." Flux's crystalline structure pulsed with gentle amber light. "Perhaps their strength lies not in biology, but in adaptability? Their ships show remarkable diversity in design and function." "Adaptability is the refuge of the weak," Zarath replied dismissively. "A truly superior species develops perfect techniques and tools, then masters them completely. The Velnari way has proven successful for thousands of years, because we do not waste time constantly changing our approach." She gestured to the battle records still displayed on the main screen. Look at these human vessels. No two are exactly alike. Their weapon systems are a chaotic mixture of technologies borrowed from other species. Their armor plating follows no consistent pattern. This is not innovation, this is confusion. The bridge crew exchanged subtle glances. Most had served under Captain Zareth for several years, and knew better than to argue when she adopted this particular tone. Her opinions on human capabilities were well known throughout the fleet, and her track record of successful missions gave her words considerable weight. Set course for the Arcturus sector, she commanded. Intelligence reports suggest increased raider activity in that region. Perhaps we can show these systems what real combat looks like. As the ship began its journey through hyperspace, Zareth continued reviewing battle reports. The steady stream of human victories puzzled her, but she remained convinced that closer examination would reveal the truth behind these supposedly impossible feats. Her personal quarters later that evening reflected her military background. Awards and commendations covered one wall, while another displayed weapons from various species she had encountered in battle. A massive Sarkani warhammer hung beside the delicate energy blade of a Yutani warrior, each representing a hard-fought victory. She poured herself a glass of Velnari combat wine, a tradition among her people before potentially dangerous missions. The purple liquid glowed softly in the dim lighting as she studied intelligence reports on her personal display. "Computer, show me detailed analysis of recent human military engagements," she commanded. The display filled with tactical breakdowns, casualty reports, and strategic assessments. Pattern after pattern showed human forces achieving victory against superior numbers or more advanced technology. Yet something felt wrong about these reports. Cross-reference these engagements with known human military doctrine, she continued. The computer's mechanical voice responded immediately. No consistent tactical doctrine identified. Human forces employ widely varying strategies, depending on circumstances. This only confirmed her suspicions. Obviously, these reports have been altered or exaggerated. No military force can be effective without established doctrine and proven tactics. She finished her wine and prepared for sleep, confident that whatever truth lay behind the human military myths would soon be revealed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and she was certain that her superior training and experience would prove decisive in any conflict. Outside her viewport, the stars streamed past in brilliant lines of light as the ship raced toward its destination. Unknown to Captain Zareth, events were already in motion that would challenge everything she believed about human capabilities and force her to confront truths that her rigid worldview had refused to acknowledge. The Arcturus sector held many secrets, and some of them were about to change her perspective on humanity forever. 3 days into their journey toward the Arcturus sector, the Stellar Dominion received an urgent distress signal that would change everything Captain Zareth believed about human fighters. "Captain, we're receiving multiple emergency broadcasts from the Helix Station orbital platform," announced Communications Officer Flux, their crystalline form pulsing with urgent red light. "The transmissions are fragmented, but it appears they're under attack by a massive raider fleet." Zareth straightened in her command chair, her mandibles clicking with interest. The Helix Station served as a crucial trading hub, connecting dozens of star systems, housing nearly 50,000 beings from various species. Its strategic importance made it a prime target for the savage raider clans that plagued the Outer Rim. "How many ships are we talking about?" she asked, already calculating response times and tactical options. Vextar's 4 arms worked frantically across his tactical display. Initial scans suggest at least 30 raider vessels, including several converted battlecruisers. "Captain, this is a major assault force, not a simple raid." "And what about defensive capabilities?" "Helix Station's shield generators are operating at maximum capacity, but they won't hold for long under this kind of bombardment. The station's defensive weapons are primarily designed for deterring small pirate groups, not a fleet of this size." Zareth rose from her chair, pacing to the main viewport where she could see the distant glow of the station's emergency beacons. "Are there any other military vessels in the area?" "Negative, Captain. The nearest patrol ship is at least 6 hours away, and they're only a light cruiser. We're the largest military vessel within response range." The situation was grim. While the Stellar Dominion was a formidable warship, it was designed for patrol duties and small-scale conflicts. Engaging 30 raider vessels alone would be suicide, regardless of her crew's skill and experience. "Captain," Flux interrupted urgently, "I'm receiving another transmission. There's a human vessel requesting permission to assist in the defense." Zarath's mandibles clicked in amusement. "A human ship? What type of vessel?" "The identification reads as HSF Indomitable. Registry indicates it's a heavy fighter classification." "A single fighter?" Zarath laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the bridge. "What do they think they can accomplish against an entire raider fleet?" Vextar pulled up the vessel's specifications on the main screen. The human ship was indeed small, roughly the size of a standard shuttle, with an unusual design that seemed to blend elements from multiple species technologies. Its hull was a patchwork of different materials and configurations that looked more like an experimental prototype than a military vessel. "Sir, they're broadcasting on emergency channels," Flux reported. "The pilot is requesting tactical coordination for a joint defense operation." "Joint defense?" Zarath shook her head in disbelief. "One tiny human fighter and one patrol ship against 30 raiders? That's not a defense, that's a massacre waiting to happen." She moved to her command console, considering their options. The Velnari military code demanded that they respond to distress calls when possible, but she also had a responsibility to her crew not to engage in hopeless battles. "Open a channel to this human pilot," she commanded. The main screen flickered, then showed the interior of the human fighter's cockpit. A young woman sat in the pilot's seat, her brown hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She wore a flight suit covered in patches from various military units, and her eyes held a calm intensity that surprised Zarath. "This is Commander Sarah Chen, of the Human Space Force," the woman said, her voice steady despite the desperate situation. "I appreciate you responding to the distress call, Captain. What's your tactical assessment?" "My assessment is that you should withdraw immediately," Zarath replied bluntly. "This is a major raider fleet with overwhelming firepower. Even working together, our chances of success are minimal." "Why?" Commander Chen smiled, an expression that seemed completely inappropriate given the circumstances. "Respectfully, Captain, I think you might be underestimating the situation. I've been monitoring raider communications, and this fleet is mainly composed of outdated vessels and converted cargo ships. Their coordination is poor, and they're relying on intimidation rather than tactical superiority." "You cannot possibly take on 30 ships alone," Zarath insisted. "I don't care how outdated they are. I'm not planning to take them all on," Chen replied. "I just need to disrupt their formation and take out their command vessel. Once their leadership is eliminated, the rest will likely scatter or fight each other for salvage rights." Zarath studied the human pilot's face, searching for signs of the fear or madness that would explain such confidence. Instead, she saw only focused determination and what appeared to be genuine tactical analysis. "You've identified their command ship?" Vextar asked, leaning forward with interest. "Third ship from the left in their main formation. It's an old Kitharan heavy cruiser, probably stolen during the Outer Rim conflicts. The communication patterns show all tactical orders originating from that vessel." Zarath was impressed despite herself. The human had apparently been conducting reconnaissance while they talked, demonstrating a level of situational awareness she hadn't expected. "Even if you're correct about the command structure," she said, "that cruiser will be heavily defended. Their escort ships will intercept you long before you reach your target." 10. "Not if you help create a distraction," Chen replied. "Your ship has impressive sensor capabilities. If you can simulate a larger fleet approaching from the opposite vector, it should draw off most of their screening vessels." "You want us to run a deception operation while you attempt a suicide run?" "I want us to work together to save 50,000 lives," Chen corrected firmly. "And it's not a suicide run if it works." The audacity of the proposal left Zarath momentarily speechless. The human pilot was calmly discussing tactics for an engagement that any rational military officer would consider impossible. "Captain," Flux interrupted, The raiders have broken through the station's outer shield layer. They're beginning bombardment of the docking facilities. On the tactical display, they could see explosions blooming across Helix Station's hull as raider weapons found their mark. Emergency evacuation pods were launching from the station, but many would never make it to safety if the assault continued. "We have to try something," Vextar said quietly. "Even if the odds are poor." Zarath stared at the display, weighing their options. Everything in her training and experience told her to wait for reinforcements or attempt to negotiate with the raiders, but the desperate situation and the strange confidence of the human pilot made her hesitate. "Commander Chen," she said finally, "explain your tactical plan in detail." For the next few minutes, the human outlined a complex strategy involving coordinated sensor spoofing, precise timing, and what seemed like impossible flying maneuvers. The plan relied heavily on the human fighter's supposed ability to penetrate heavily defended formations and strike specific targets with surgical precision. "This is madness," Zarath muttered, but she found herself studying the tactical possibilities despite her skepticism. "Captain," Chen said, "I know this seems impossible from your perspective, but humans have been fighting impossible odds since we first looked up at the stars. Sometimes madness is just another word for thinking differently." Outside the viewport, Helix Station's emergency lights continued to flash as explosions rippled across its surface. The choice was clear: attempt an impossible rescue, or watch 50,000 beings die while waiting for help that would arrive too late. "If we do this," Zarath said slowly, "you'll need to prove you can actually accomplish what you're claiming." "I understand your doubts," Chen replied. "Watch carefully, Captain. You're about to see why the legends about human fighters aren't just stories." The human pilot's fingers began moving across her controls with fluid precision, and her small ship started moving toward the massive raider fleet with a confidence that defied all logic and reason. What happened next would forever change Captain Zarath's understanding of human capabilities and reshape her views on combat effectiveness throughout the galaxy. Commander Chen's fighter, the Indomitable, moved toward the raider fleet with a flight pattern that defied conventional tactics. Instead of approaching in a straight line or following standard attack vectors, the small ship wove through space in an unpredictable spiral, constantly changing speed and direction in ways that seemed to serve no tactical purpose. "What is she doing?" Vextar asked, his four eyes tracking the human vessel's erratic movement on the tactical display. "I have no idea," Zarath admitted, watching with growing fascination as the fighter performed maneuvers that would have been impossible for most pilots to execute without losing consciousness. The raider fleet had noticed the approaching vessels and began to reposition. Several escort ships broke formation to intercept what they assumed would be an easy target. Zarath watched the tactical display as 12 raider fighters moved to engage the lone human ship. "She's going to be overwhelmed," Zarath muttered, preparing to order the Stellar Dominion into the battle. Then Commander Chen demonstrated why human fighters had become legend. The Indomitable suddenly accelerated directly toward the center of the raider formation, but instead of attacking, it seemed to dance between the enemy ships. Zarath watched in amazement as the human fighter twisted and rolled through gaps in the formation that appeared impossibly small, using the raiders' own ships as shields against their weapons fire. "How is she calculating those trajectories?" Flux asked, their crystalline form pulsing with confused colors. "She's not calculating," Zarath realized with growing astonishment. "She's reacting. Look at the timing. No computer could process spatial relationships that quickly." The human pilot was flying purely on instinct, making split-second decisions that kept her ship alive against overwhelming odds. But more than that, she was using the raiders' aggression against them. When enemy fighters moved to intercept, she would suddenly change course, causing them to collide with each other or expose themselves to friendly fire. Within minutes, 6 raider fighters had been destroyed, and the human ship hadn't sustained a single hit. "Impossible," Zarath breathed, her mandibles clicking rapidly. But Commander Chen was just getting started. Having demonstrated her ability to survive in close combat, she began the real attack. The Indomitable suddenly broke away from the fighter screen and accelerated toward the command cruiser with impossible speed. "Captain, her ship's acceleration is off the charts," Vextar reported. "She's pulling over 20 Gs, but somehow maintaining perfect control. No pilot can survive those forces," Zareth stated. But the evidence before her eyes contradicted everything she thought she knew. The human fighter approached the massive raider cruiser from below, using the ship's own bulk to shield her approach from most of its weapons. When the cruiser's defensive turrets finally acquired her as a target, Chen performed a maneuver that Zareth would later struggle to describe in her official reports. The Indomitable seemed to fold space around itself, suddenly appearing above the cruiser's main bridge section, while somehow maintaining its previous vector. The maneuver was so unexpected that the raider gunners couldn't adjust their targeting systems fast enough. "What just happened?" Flux asked, their voice carrying harmonics of pure confusion. "Some kind of micro-jump," Zareth whispered. "But that's impossible at such close range and high velocity." Commander Chen didn't waste the opportunity. Her ship's weapons opened fire with precision that exceeded anything Zareth had witnessed in 3 decades of military service. Each shot found its target with mathematical perfection, systematically destroying the cruiser's command systems, communication arrays, and bridge facilities. The entire engagement lasted less than 30 seconds, but by the time it was over, the raider command ship was drifting helplessly, its leadership eliminated, and its ability to coordinate the fleet completely destroyed. "Target neutralized." Chen's voice came over the communication channel, calm and professional, as if she had just completed a routine training exercise. "Captain Zareth, now would be an excellent time for that sensor deception we discussed." Still reeling from what she had witnessed, Zareth gave the order for her crew to begin broadcasting false sensor signatures. The Stellar Dominion's advanced systems created the illusion of a full battle fleet approaching from the opposite side of the system. The effect on the raider fleet was immediate and dramatic. Without their command ship's coordination, the individual captains began making independent decisions. Some fled immediately, others turned to face the Phantom fleet, and several began fighting among themselves over who would claim leadership of the remaining ships. "The human was correct," Vex Tar announced with wonder. "The fleet is disintegrating." But Commander Chen wasn't finished. As the raiders turned their attention to the false fleet signatures, she began systematically hunting down the vessels that posed the greatest threat to Helix Station. Her targeting was surgical. She disabled weapon systems without destroying entire ships, eliminating threats while minimizing casualties. Zareth watched in growing amazement as the human pilot demonstrated tactical awareness that surpassed most fleet commanders. Chen seemed to understand the psychology of each raider captain, predicting their responses and using their own instincts against them. "Captain, look at this," Flux called out, highlighting something on the sensor display. "She's not just attacking randomly. Every ship she's targeting has been identified as carrying stolen civilian prisoners." The revelation hit Zareth like a physical blow. The human pilot wasn't just defending the station, she was conducting a complex rescue operation in the middle of a battle, somehow tracking and prioritizing targets based on humanitarian concerns while engaging in impossible aerial combat. "How is she processing all that information simultaneously?" Zareth asked, more to herself than her crew. "Perhaps," Vex Tar suggested quietly, "human capabilities aren't as limited as we assumed." Over the next hour, Zareth witnessed displays of flying skill, tactical brilliance, and strategic thinking that forced her to reconsider everything she believed about combat effectiveness. Commander Chen didn't just defeat the raider fleet, she orchestrated its complete dismantling while rescuing over 300 civilian prisoners and coordinating the defense of Helix Station. When the battle finally ended, only 5 raider ships remained, and they were in full retreat. The station's shields had held, the civilian population was safe, and the immediate threat had been neutralized by a single human fighter. "Stellar Dominion, this is Commander Chen," came the calm voice over their communication system. "Thank you for your assistance with the sensor deception. It was crucial to the operation's success." Zareth found herself struggling for words. "Commander, I owe you an apology. Your performance today was beyond anything I thought possible." "No apology necessary, Captain. Different species have different strengths. Humans just happen to excel at improvisation and adaptation under pressure." "That was more than improvisation," Zareth replied. "What I witnessed today was artistry." Chen's laugh came through the speakers, warm and genuine. "That's kind of you to say." But honestly, this was just basic human military doctrine in action. Basic doctrine? Zareth repeated weakly. Sure. Rule 1. Assess the situation quickly and thoroughly. Rule 2. Identify the most efficient solution, regardless of conventional wisdom. Rule 3. Execute with maximum precision, while maintaining flexibility for unexpected variables. Rule 4. Never stop moving until the objective is complete. Zareth looked around her bridge at her crew, seeing her own confusion reflected in their faces. If this was basic human military training, then everything they thought they knew about human capabilities was fundamentally wrong. Commander Chen, she said slowly, I would very much like to learn more about human combat techniques. I'd be happy to share what I know, Captain. But you should understand, what you saw today isn't unusual for human military personnel. Every pilot in our Space Force trains to these standards. The implications of that statement left Zareth speechless. If every human fighter possessed even a fraction of Commander Chen's abilities, then the galaxy's power balance was far different than she had realized. Later, as the Stellar Dominion helped coordinate rescue operations and damage assessment, Zareth found herself revising her opinions on human military effectiveness. The legends she had dismissed as propaganda were apparently documentaries. The impossible feats she had attributed to exaggeration were apparently routine operations. Standing at her viewport, watching the Indomitable assist with civilian evacuations while somehow maintaining combat readiness, Zareth realized that her species' rigid adherence to traditional tactics might actually be a weakness rather than a strength. Perhaps true superiority lay not in perfecting unchanging techniques, but in the ability to adapt and innovate when faced with impossible challenges. Perhaps the humans had discovered something that her ancient, proud civilization had missed. For the first time in her military career, Captain Zareth began to wonder if the Velnari had something to learn from the newest spacefaring species in the galaxy. The thought both humbled and excited her as she contemplated the implications for future conflicts and cooperation. The legends of human fighters, she now understood, weren't legends at all. They were simply humans being human.